This is RSBANDB Update, episode 603, recorded Thursday, January 26th, 2017. Death's Complaintionists. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for RSBANDB Update. We are here as what is Mr. Bistro's penultimate episode of your extended quarter of co-hosting this show.
Hello.
It's kind of interesting that you're going to end out your co-hosting stint on the next update, a huge combat update for yourself.
Yeah.
But that's next week. And we do have some combat here for you this week as well. But, before we do that, just a bit of a brief rundown of what you can expect today. The RS news this week, the surprise update that people were surprised about and seem to generally be accepting of this one. We'll be discussing that and some interesting changes in the patch notes, once again relating to combat, a player proposal from our dear Pernasius, and invention makes its way into Treasure Hunter. But let's just get going then with the changes to Soul Reaper, and that is, of course, Slayer for bosses. I think that's the best way of describing Soul Reaper, wouldn't you say?
I don't think there's a better way to describe it than that.
Yeah, so basically, for those of you guys who aren't combat types, you go to Death, just north of Draenor Village, and ask him for a Soul Reaper assignment. And based on your combat level and capabilities, you will be assigned some kind of bossing assignment to do. It might be General Gerador 25 times, or it might be Araxi if you're really feeling up to it, or it could maybe even be something similar depending on your combat level. But that's what you can expect from Death's assignments. Pretty much Slayer except for bossing. This came out, I think it was probably around a year and a half to 2 years ago, maybe. Might be longer. But it kind of gives people something to do when they're looking for a bossing fight, but maybe they don't know where to go and they want to earn something else along the way. So are you a fan of this, being a combat person?
Yeah, I am. I won't lie, though. When I get an assignment from Death, it makes me realize what bosses I actually want to fight.
Yeah.
Because I'll get an assignment that I don't like, and I'll just be like, come on. And most times if I run into something I don't want to fight, I'll end up going and fighting the one I do want to fight anyway.
Yeah, and you can kind of choose. You have a choice, I believe, right, for these?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this is just a bit of a recap into how Death's Soul Reaper challenge works, but there are, of course, other things that you get from this, and that was the primary focus of this update, the new rewards. Some cosmetics and some actual things that do end up helping you along the way. So first up, the Book of Death is 500 Reaper points, which permanently unlocks the ability to craft the Book of Death. Now you might be wondering, what is the Book of Death? Well, I don't know. Have you been able to craft one of these yet, the Book of Death?
No.
Are you interested in it? Because, 500 Reaper points is a lot.
It is a lot, and I don't think I've even gotten to 500 Reaper points.
Yeah, and of course, in addition to this, requires 80 crafting and a piece of Hydrix gem. So, but in any case, this new book, it's a pocket slot item. It gives you combat stats and gives you a small chance to insta-kill monsters or deal a larger amount of damage to bosses when you're fighting them. So it's kind of like the finishing blows ability that you can get for other Slayer creatures out there. And I guess when you're looking at it, any little bit of extra damage along the way to try and take down a huge NPC boss is a good thing. So.
Yeah, and making one of these, just for reference here, takes a Hydrix gem and 4 Death Notes.
All right, and how do you get Death Notes?
I'll have to look into that. You can buy them for $1 a piece.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not too bad then. And when it comes down to
but they can
it.
be Yeah, they can be bought for 40 Reaper points each from Death's Door.
Okay. So, only 40.
Yep.
That seems like a good way of making money then, maybe, if they just arrived and are indeed tradable.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly think, based on your death assignments, that you'd be getting way more money than you would by selling one of these pages.
All right. Well, 40 Reaper points. I mean, how many do you get per task?
Not a lot. I believe it's... part of me really wants to say 5, but that sounds wrong.
All right. And I mean, I know I am not much of a combat person, so I did have a few Reaper points sitting around. I have 23 sitting around to be exact. That's how much I don't touch this kind of update. And I can tell you I didn't really do too many, so I think that perhaps 5 is probably the right ballpark to guess on this.
It says it's 5 or less than that, because every 10th you're going to get 10 extra Reaper points, and at 50 you get 50 extra Reaper points.
Okay, so that's how you want to do it then, by chaining them just like you do with regular Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
Another reward you can unlock after this week is Reaper's Choice, 250 Reaper points. It's a passive ability, 1/10 chance that you may choose your next assignment. I bet lots of people want this one, because 1 out of 10, that's gonna happen pretty often. I mean, if you look at it that way, there's a 90% chance of it not happening. So after a certain number of tries, you're definitely gonna get those. You know, probably at least, I don't know, I'd say maybe 2 out of every 30 tasks, maybe 3 or so around, give or take. So I would probably go with that one. A Gravestone Loot Beam. Set your loot drops to appear in a macabre light. Okay, I personally do not care for cosmetic loot beams. I don't know about you, but I guess this is right here for people who want it.
I like the Rainbow Loot Beam.
Oh, you do, eh?
Yeah, I do.
You were the same person who had a problem with calling the show magical.
They can be 2 completely separate things, Shane.
All right. And also of note, on the Gravestone Loot Beam, you can purchase it for 750 Slayer points as well as Reaper points. So you don't necessarily need to be doing Reaper, but 750 Slayer points is a lot.
Yes.
So let's just keep that in mind. Reaper Scroll, another permanent passive, 50% extra XP for Soul Reaper tasks. That's a big one. But at this point, people who are not leveling up and people who are doing Soul Reaper, what's the point in an extra 50% of XP unless you're going for a 120? Because how many people who are doing combat are not maxed?
It's going to be 120. It is going to be 120.
I guess so. I mean, that's 104 million XP. That's a little bit less than 10 times the amount. Yeah. So
I'm assuming when 120 Slayer comes out that it's going to be a combination of Reaper tasks with the new Slayer Master. So this makes sense to me, especially because bosses give out massive swaths of Slayer experience. So that's good.
I forgot about that. All right, that makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense. And then Death Support, 250 Reaper points, doubles the health regained from signs and portents of life and death. I guess that's something people use when it comes to divination consumables.
Yeah, I guess I could see that being pretty neat. But then at the same time, if you ever get to a point where that portent of life like fires off, you know you're in trouble in the first place. So
you're gonna want to get out of there pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's also 2 cosmetic rewards that'll unlock automatically on completing a set number of Reaper assignments. Note these are unlocked retroactively, so seasoned Reapers can get these right away. Death Scythe after 100 assignments is a two-handed weapon override, and the Tiny Death Pet after 200 assignments is basically a little bobblehead pet that looks like death that'll follow you around. So I'm interested in the scythe. I don't know how long it would take me to get 100 Reaper assignments done, though. Probably quite a while.
I don't know.
Like, is there a way I can go there and say I want the easiest of easiest assignments? Like, go let me kill the cows of the Reaper assignments?
Yeah, but it'll just take a lot more picking and choosing. But yeah, 200 assignments for a pet. I can see why some people would actually want to go for that because they like pets, but I could care less.
Yeah, it's Petscape Reborn. And, you know, with the huge release of Overwatch last May, I was half expecting next time they looked at death and these Reaper assignments to, I don't know, maybe have like an emote or something that was called Die, 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 perhaps, that showed death, or your character, for example, just killing everything around you. Maybe that could have been 500 assignments. I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there. But I was half expecting to see something like that when this arrived, because, you know, the Reaper is one of the characters of Overwatch that can carry the hardest. So I don't know if you ever played Overwatch, have you?
A couple times.
Oh, yeah. It's a really good game. You should pick it up if you haven't. Goes on sale around any other time that people can purchase games from Blizzard. So if anyone out there listening is looking for a good FPS, definitely pick it up. I know lots of us at RSBANDB play it, especially in the RSBANDB Discord. So
yeah, I'd say that'd be the one to get to hold you off until Star Wars Battlefront 2. Technically 4.
What is it with you and the Star Wars stuff? I mean, you keep bringing these in every week here.
Well, you see, part of me needs to bring Star Wars into this because Star Trek has been the sole focus for so long, and we got to get a breath of fresh air.
And that's why we're replacing you with Sirion. Oh, I did it again. Oh, I did it again. I revealed the next co-host.
Oh.
Remember when I revealed you on the RuneFest episode?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just me. I get you worked up and then you forget, and I don't know. These things happen.
All right, so I think that's pretty much all there is to discuss on this Soul Reaper reward rework. Nice little surprise update, and was generally well received from players. And I don't know. Do you have anything else to add on this?
Yeah, the Gravestone Loot Beam, definitely buy that with Slayer points because Slayer points go up so much faster. And that's an actual option that you can use. So 750 sounds like a lot, but at the end of the day, it's really not as much.
Yeah.
And the Book of Death is really cool. I would recommend going for that one. Probably first, either that or the Reaper Scroll.
Well, there is a reason why they put it on the top of the list first.
Yeah. Oh man, that'd be so. Oh.
Yeah.
I want to get that book.
And you know the reason I think that they've made this a surprise week update rather than something they would announce or slipstream in with something else is that at the core of it, this update is really small because all they're doing is adding a few items to the game that are unlocked by a store that's already in the game. So in that regard, it's a relatively low-cost thing to do from a new content perspective, right? That you don't need to create new models, you don't need to create new areas, that kind of thing. So it's not as complicated. And it refreshes a piece of content that people use daily, but it really hasn't got much attention since it first came out. And that's always good. Yeah. And the fact it's a surprise with this list of rewards. The fact it's a surprise means that people weren't expecting it that when it came out, so each one of these is going to be received well on release and not necessarily received well or perhaps dissected a week before when it's streamed. So I'm really happy with the way this was executed.
Mm-hmm. I think that they should do that for a lot of the
definitely
reward areas of the game.
Yeah.
I could name so many, but I'm not going to because there's no point. They could all use it.
Yeah. And anyways, we got the new gorilla pet. Of course, there's the new jungle gorilla, and that is the main pet, but the shadow gorilla companion is what everyone got to name. And the winning name is, imaginary drum roll right now, Titus. Yeah. And, there was so much hope when this was first posted until you read the fine print, that it can't be a Harambe reference, which I think lots of people would have liked. And I don't know if spelling Harambe backwards could have been one, but I know that's one that I heard, and not Harambe is another one I heard. So, Titus, that's relatively low profile, I guess, compared to the other options that are out there. And if you purchase the 2400 Runecoin package, which will of course allow you to purchase the legendary pet, you will get a Shadow Gorilla armor set. So not only can you have a gorilla pet and a Shadow Gorilla companion, but you can also have armor to make yourself look like a gorilla. So that's cosmetic fashionscape for the week, but continue.
Yeah. Maybe it's just me, but I would really like them to move that cabbage face punch bonanza out of that area of the game.
What does this have to do with?
I'm just looking at the images of.
Oh, that's where this was taken. I see.
Yeah, they're set up right next to where Marimbo was seated.
Right.
I think that they could put that on Ape Atoll and then have a teleport there.
Yeah, we already do have that.
Yeah.
Or, something I also keep hearing from people, Monkey Madness Part 2 for RS3, seeing as Old School already got Monkey Madness 2. So.
Yeah. I don't know if I was really a fan of the Monkey Madness quests.
Well, it was so long ago, and I think it was, in many ways, a classic quest that different than what we have now. So.
Okay, well, let's move on.
Yes, that's enough gorillas for RuneScape today, I believe. So, on to the patch notes this week. A couple of interesting things. Another combat fix, but we'll get to that in just a wee bit. First up, all remaining 15-year anniversary decorations in-game have been removed. There were a few that did slip in at the Varrock Grand Exchange, I did notice. So, they removed the missing ones.
I was going to say, didn't they say that last week?
They indeed did. And then also relating to the seasonal event currently going on, the color of doubloons message has been changed, and the box that appears when adding them to the currency pouch has been removed. That message was really dark, and it was creating an overflow if you were doing other things where you might be having things randomly appear in your inventory. So it's good that color has been changed. Here's one also relating to Soul Reaper and combat. Players will no longer be assigned the Queen Black Dragon from death without having level 60 summoning. Because, 60 summoning is a requirement for the quest that unlocks Queen Black Dragon. So, that's there. The Berserker Aura can no longer stack with multiple activations. Berserker Aura was the 2016 Premier Club aura, and I'm wondering who found this out, that it can stack.
Who tried to activate it more than once?
Oh, I'm sorry, Berserkers. That is not from Premier Club. That is just a standard combat aura.
Yeah, who tried? Does that mean that's been in game like that for this entire time? People are just using it.
And see, that's the thing. I'm entirely not sure of, because we get these things in the patch notes that were fixed or changed, but it doesn't say how long it's been broken or how long it's been like that in game. So has this been like this since it came out, or is this something that just got broken by another combat change somewhere else?
I can't imagine that being broken. Like
Berserker came out in 2011, the aura.
Yeah, no way.
And I mean, if you could do this would be huge, because it increased attack and strength by 10%, but reduced defense by 15%.
Wow.
Of course, if that was additive, that would be huge. But if it was multiplicative, you still would have got a benefit, but not as extreme. So, very interesting. All right, and here we are for the weekly bit of evolution of combat ability changing that gets some people happy and some people very disappointed. Concentrated Blast, Fury, and Needle Strike are now buffed, while Sonic Wave is slightly nerfed. And there's a post here by ModPie that explains the rationale on these changes, much like we had the Planted Feet post last week. So, This is a more exhaustive post than the planted feet post, believe it or not. Goes into a huge discussion about this. And I guess before I go into this, do you have any thoughts on this from the outset?
I don't know. I'm pretty on the fence about everything. I mean, Needle Strike didn't really need to be sped up because ranged is so fast. I could see them decreasing Sonic Wave.
Yeah, and
Concentrated Blast and Fury. I guess I can understand that one too. That one I can get behind the most.
yeah, and I actually really like that because it increases your critical strike chance an additional 5% up to a maximum of 15%, which is pretty substantial. I'm not sure how the math about critical hit and critical chance or critical severity works in this game, but definitely would be interested to look into. On the accuracy boost front, 6% down from 10%. I mean, that doesn't seem like a lot on the surface, but I guess that definitely can add up over time.
I got to get back to the Concentrated Blast and Fury. The fact that in PvP it no longer will stack and just gives you the highest bonus, so starts you off at 15%, is bullcrap. They don't need to speed up PvP more with EOC combat. No, that was a dumb idea.
Yeah, I mean, the question I have for this is how big of the pool of people do we have doing EOC PvP that can take advantage of this, and what's to say this is a proper change to make?
Oh, that sounds like it's further breaking PvP with EOC. I guess Legacy is still the only way to do PvP. They're going the wrong direction.
There's tables here for Sonic Wave and Concentrated Blast. Base damage, for example, with Sonic Wave is 31.4. Random damage 125.6, giving you an average damage of 94.2. Damage tick 1. I'm not sure what they mean by GCD, but 1 damage tick. And then Concentrated Blast, average damage between 45 and 53.4, increasing each time. So I guess Concentrated Blast, is a good way to go. But this doesn't seem like as much of a nerf as it does last week now, does it? I mean, the only thing that was really nerfed was the accuracy. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to pull through here, and unfortunately I don't do enough combat to be able to say definitively which is going to be the best going forward and what this means. But, I mean, unless you have any ideas or you want to throw anything out there.
I would say that anyone using Sonic Wave could easily choose a different weapon to get the accuracy back.
Oh, so that'll work unlike with Planted Feet.
Well, when I say choose a different weapon, I mean you get the accuracy boost out of that weapon.
Oh, okay, I see. I see what you're...
So if someone was, let's say, using... this is two-handed. I gotta remember my two-handed stuff. Okay, yeah. The higher up you go in the chain, you would get that accuracy back.
Right.
Enough said.
And I'm guessing if you're at tier 90 or so, it's really probably nothing too much to worry about.
No.
Okay then. Well.
Or increase your potions if you're using supers.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it definitely seems like a bunch of buffs here, not too many nerfs. Okay. So, and they calling this the long-awaited Concentrated Blast rebalance.
Yeah. I don't know why they needed to change Needle Strike so much.
Yeah, increased damage 7% up from 5%. Though, I mean, I think that goes with what people are expecting. because you always hear that range isn't used and melee isn't used. It's always magic.
No, range definitely has.
I mean, of course it has a place, but it just feels like it's not used as much. So.
I don't know. I see a lot of people using range. Maybe that's just because of me doing bossing and stuff. I just don't see any melee. I think I talked about this quite a bit last week.
We did.
So I don't need to go into it anymore. But mage is definitely top, but range is not as far behind as you might think.
Yeah. All right, I'm content to leave that right there then. Mm-hmm. Here's another PvP-based change. These are very much used in PvP. The Statius Warhammer now drains 5 times less divine charge per special attack, making it last for around 1,000 special attacks. So, I mean, I definitely think they're trying to get more people to PvP with these changes.
Yeah, I guess that means you get to keep that longer. 5 times longer.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're thinking about it, these are pretty expensive to get, and perhaps this is related to the amount of PvP that's going on. I haven't gone back to check Deathmatch or Bounty Hunter to see how that's going.
Yeah, the Stasis Warhammer, right now, if you were to buy it on GE, is 42 mil.
Okay, so it probably went up a bit.
Yeah, it's had a huge spike this year alone.
Fair enough. Golden Bamboo and Wabagong now have a progress bar similar to Ancestral Energy and the Mushroom Clusters on the Ark. That's nice. Players may now quick chat their current Soul Reaper assignment. Chartering a ship will now place players directly on the dock, and a dual arena clue scroll has been repositioned to no longer require entering the arena. Wow. That one has been around for a long time. The ability to, hey, I need help with the clues. Friend, help me out with this clue. Let's go duel and let me do this clue. That is no more. I remember that going all the way back to the very beginning of RS2.
Yeah, I've actually done a couple of those.
Yeah. Is this a usability thing in preparation for the pending clue scroll rework, you think? Or is it just a way of ensuring people don't need to find someone in a world that might be kind of empty?
You know, looking at all of these tweaks and fixes, and even the changes to the Concentrated Blast, Fury, and Needle, it all sounds like these are leading up to an update of their own, and just tweaking beforehand.
And what would this update be?
I can see the Sonic Wave, Concentrated Blast, and Needle stuff being for the boss. Also having something to do with PvP, the Warhammer, obviously PvP. There's a lot of PvP stuff going on here. They're also prepping for the 120 Slayer, getting everything kind of laid out neat. And yeah, the clue scroll rework, it's in there. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a growing intensity of clue scroll stuff over the next few weeks.
Yeah, that's actually a fairly good point. That might end up happening. All right. Well, anything else from the patch notes for you this week?
Yeah, there's some hot fixes about monkey barrels.
Oh boy,
that are funny.
Okay.
On the 16th, they disabled monkey barrels as they caused the NXT client to crash. And the following day, they re-enabled them. So they had one poor developer work on fixing that.
And you know, monkey barrels are something that are so remote and so old that it's just very interesting that they get affected by this stuff still. Anyways, anything else?
No, not really.
All right.
Walking and rest overrides are now hidden within PvP areas. So that's good.
Oh, good. Well, in addition to patch notes, I do have a proposal here from Pernasius that talks about some additions to the Ark that could potentially be added in a future update to the area, just because, it seems as though you do the Ark and there's not too much left to do. So I think this was spawned by chatting with some people, but basically the idea goes as follows. So in the Ark, once a player has unlocked everything, there's little to draw them back to enjoy this major update. There's very limited items to be purchased at the Wyco reward shop once everything is unlocked. Yes, you can buy supplies for ports, but they're costly. And let's be honest, it's much easier to just collect them from the journeys rather than spending chimes on them. Then he goes on to say there are XP lamps, but again, it isn't really worth the time it takes to get the chimes to get the XP lamps. So, what Pernasius and others would like to see is an expansion of the reward shop. And it goes back to when the Mimic boss was around. And the Mimic boss dropped special scrimshaws. One was of aggression, another of sacrifice, and one of corruption. Pernasius proposes that Jagex introduce these into the reward shops for chimes, allowing players who enjoy the Ark some purpose for training and earning chimes. We could also see the introduction of various new scrimshaws for other areas of the game too, not just combat. Another idea would be to have the reward trader sell the player an ancient bone fragment that needs to be combined with 2 to 3 shells and perhaps a piece of driftwood from the Uncharted Isles. Wouldn't it be great to be able to make a degrade to dust scrimshaw that you can charge up with various berries that would grow on Twilight? For example, a scrimshaw made with 3 shells, driftwood, and stained with the juice from 10 jitterberries could give an extra 5% cooking XP, or perhaps has 10% chance of cooking 2 items at once. In a similar way that the Varrock armor sometimes helps you smith 2 bars at once. A Musa berry scrimshaw could have a small chance of not using shards when creating a summoning pouch, and a sour berry scrimshaw could give a chance of double loot when thieving. A cocoa berry scrimshaw the chance to save a seed while farming, or may give extra resources when picking fruit, trees, cactus plants, or mushroom allotments. The options are endless, and it would lend new life to this vibrant area and give us a real use and meaning for having a separate economy. So the idea is to make areas of the Ark that are currently there, like berries and whatnot, tie into the reward shop and allow players to create scrimshaws that are unique and that can only be created outside the Ark and would be created specifically for you and would help you with your skills outside of the Ark. Because let's be real, what do you get from the Ark right now that you can use in the real world? Not too much, right? Mm-hmm. So it's basically, it feels like it's a piece of content that is completed and forget it. The Ark itself is great, but I think this would definitely add some sustainability to it. So I would highly recommend everyone give this a read. There's a link on the podcast website at update.rsbandb.com to the official forums for this topic if you want to give it a bump and maybe post some additional ideas on it. So, yeah, I definitely support this. And, I think that anytime we can add updates to the game that don't cause too much friction elsewhere or make things too overpowered, that's definitely a good thing. So there will be a link in the show notes to this forum topic. But what do you think of this? Would you be up for something like this to bring you back to the Ark?
Yes, definitely. I really like the ideas here. I think that these ideas plus more would make me more likely to go there. I know that this is just brainstorming, and I really feel like there could be a lot more done at the end of the day, because I will be honest, it will take me a lot to go back to the Ark.
Yeah, personally, I still haven't completed it. I'm just doing it on my own pace. And, I mean, what is there aside from, completing the journal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know me, I love farming stuff, and I think that this would be a much better use for those berries than we saw after all those years for the eggs from Bird's Nest, which turned out to be a piece for the construction update. So
I feel like they could do some pretty cool stuff with the berries, and they just haven't. I would like them to see. I would like them to bring back complex foods. You know what I mean by that?
like the baked potato with fish in it and salmon and all that, or
Yeah, or pizzas.
yeah,
What happened to RuneScape pizzas?
right. But the problem with that is though they take so long to cook, and you get zero benefit for using that over something else.
Exactly. They gotta have a reason to put
This
effort
this
into
would be
making
kind of
this.
like converting the parts of the cooking skill to herb lore, like they suggested they could do with smithing, where you start with something basic and then refine it over time, and you can still eat it along the way. But over time, you might get a piece of food that does X to you.
Yeah, or you could turn those berries into jams and slather them over your food.
Oh yeah, for other little bonuses, there's a good way of getting out of the arc.
Boom, done.
Yeah. And see, I think that's a thing that we all would love to have, and I mean, I'm sure Jagex would like to do stuff like this, and it's just a matter of finding the time to do it. So I think that, with passion updates and surprises, and if you can draw enough attention to something, you can perhaps get Jagex to focus on it a bit, and who knows, it might appear in the future in some little patch to the arc. So.
Yeah, I think that the arc has the potential to offer so much, and so many unique things can come out of it. It's not at its full potential, and it's going to take work to get there.
So in some ways, it's like Noah's Ark then.
Sure. I don't understand the correlation besides the name, so unless that's the only correlation.
Well, it's a little bit more in depth than that, but anyways.
Okay.
All right. Well then, that is of course from Pernasius. Thank you, Pernasius, for this. I think I was with you in chat when this was come up with, so I like the sound of it from the beginning. I'm glad you've put it in post, so we'll see if we can draw some attention to it.
And it looks like a lot of other people are glad too.
Yep. All right. Well, we have the anniversary. January 26th was 1 year since the invention skill came out.
That's
the day just skipped by, and it was like we didn't even realize that it was a year anniversary. At least I didn't. How about you?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. But anyways, that means, of course, that the Ark is now available. Invention is now available on Treasure Hunter. From January 26th to January 30th, you will be able to find protein cogs on Treasure Hunter, and of course that means you'll be able to use them just like all the other protein items and get a good amount of XP from these. And if you have other ones waiting and you've been looking for ways to train invention, maybe get a little bit of an XP top up, you can of course convert your other protein items into cogs now. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Does it say how these work? Like, what item do they replace?
I don't know. It's basically get them in your inventory and you use them in the bank. You don't need to go anywhere for them.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah. And, I think that there's also a question to be asked, is that should you use cogs for invention? Because if you're using cogs for invention, you're not doing the standard skilling activities, right? So that's to say, if you're using protein cogs, you might not be getting your inspiration along the way that you normally would when you're training with an invention item. That was just a thought I had.
Well, I know I got a lot of flack on my way up till 90 to 99 for not really caring about inspiration as much.
Right.
But I guess I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I mean, unless you're doing a huge amount of them, I don't see it as being too much of a problem. Like 60 or 90 that you get from Treasure Hunter, that's going to be all right. But if you're going from 1 to 99 doing this, it's going to take lots of Treasure Hunter and lots of cogs, and you're not going to get the inspiration along the way that you would because you're not training with it. So.
Mm-hmm. And then if you wanted to start training with it, you'd actually have to do all the awful things that you need to do at the beginning in order to get that inspiration. Like work your way up to the Rotomatics or whatever other tools are out nowadays.
Yeah, it actually might be good for people in the very beginning who are trying to get to Rotomatics and whatnot, now that you mention it. So, because I think Rotomatics are 27 or 22.
I could not tell you. It's been almost a year since.
Right. And see, this is the thing. We get so advanced in these skills that we forget the very basic parts. So, anyways, look for that on Treasure Hunter this week. And I've already got a few, so I will report back as to how much XP they got. So, all right. And our final piece of RS news this week is a developer's blog talking about the current progress made with the NXT game client. Which
this was good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it was released, can you believe it, half a year ago already, and we saw the first beta coming up 11 months ago in February of 2016.
It's made really good progress.
Yeah, and I mean, it definitely uses more CPU power on some machines and more GPU power, but it doesn't really compare to the Java client at all in terms of what's capable. So I think what we'll do is first look at the screenshot that they have posted at the very bottom of this article. And this is something that they're going to be doing with the Menaphos update called volumetric lighting, sometimes called the God rays, which is, of course, a way of lighting the sun. As you can see, the various rays coming down and being eclipsed by the items on the screen. So it's going to be very nice looking when that finally arrives with Menaphos. So, but before that, they did have some key points about the adoption of NXT up to this point. So 50% of the player base has adopted NXT almost immediately and have never looked back and run the Java client or gone back to it for any particular reason. A single percentage point of players, or rather single digit of players, so somewhere between 1 and 9%, have never used NXT at all, which when you think about how many people play RS, that is remarkably minuscule. Also, thousands of players have also never used the Java client who are currently playing RS. So there are people playing right now whose sole experience with RuneScape is NXT, which is pretty amazing when you think about it, what you can be exposed to with this game. 70% of the player base is using NXT as their own client, which means 30% swap back or have some other combination, but 70% are on NXT in a dedicated fashion, which I think is pretty good for less than a year adoption, right?
Yeah, that also sheds some light. I wonder how many users are still going through browser.
Well, I actually think that has to be really small because both Chrome, Firefox, and Safari disabled the plugin interface that Java used in the browser, which was done for safety's sake. And that, in effect, killed off the browser version of RuneScape for a good number of people. But you still are able to have the RS client on your desktop and launch it from the website, so it's a bit of a compromise. I would say that's probably pretty small, though.
Okay.
Also, they want to retire the Java client at some point in the future because there are things that they have on their roadmap that they want to do in the future that are not going to work in the Java client. And they gave comfort to everyone by saying that players will have enough warning about when this is going to happen. It's not just going to happen overnight. Players will be sufficiently warned. So that's nice to hear.
And I was hoping to see a date in this post, but I didn't.
Yeah, I think we could probably look at maybe second half of this year, maybe.
I don't know. I'd say third quarter.
No, that counts as second half, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
I thought you said second quarter.
No.
Slow down, Shane.
No, of course not. So, lots of great statistics here for NXT and some really nice progress shots going forward with Menaphos. So, excellent. I'm so glad that they made this one of their core updates of 2016. It's really changed the way the game feels, and I think has, in some ways, evolved the game more than other updates. So.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Anything else RS related before we move on to our discussion topic of the week?
No, let's move on.
Okie dokie. So the discussion topic this week is from Thieves. So Thieves writes, "Hey guys, with many trimmed completionists out there calling for an amnesty period with the new Soul Reaper requirement and the unknown amnesty period due for completionists when 120 Slayer hits, I thought it would be interesting to hear your thoughts on completionist amnesty in general. First off, should trimmed completionists get their amnesty for what is essentially a 200-plus day requirement? Second, should there be any amnesty at all for 120 Slayer when it comes, bearing in mind there will have almost been a 1-year notice? Being a completionist myself, I'd personally like an amnesty around 7 days to complete any new requirement. Would you agree?" Then he lists some pros and cons here. The pros are that completionists won't be constantly affected. It gives completionists ample time to complete and enjoy the new content before the next update without having to rush through it. And harder completionist requirements can be implemented instead of the extremely tame requirements put in now, which pander to the completionists. Cons, I honestly can't think of any. Perhaps you guys might find something. Thanks, fellas. Okay. Are you going for comp ever?
No, I'm not.
Do you know anyone who has comp?
Yeah,
and do they
know
complain about this?
Yes.
And specifically, what aspect?
The amount of time it takes to do everything. They honestly complain about an update when it comes out, regardless. And a couple of my completionist friends have switched over to old school.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Yeah. They said that they'd rather not keep going for completionist stuff. Maybe one day when they get back into it that they would again, but they wanted to start fresh in a different version of the game with their other friends that have been around forever.
So basically they got tired of chasing a moving target.
Yeah, that and a bunch of their friends moved over to old school too. So honestly, people that have completionists have probably been around for quite some time. So maybe some of their friends that have come back but are playing old school is what they really want to be doing. I think trim completionist is something that's way beyond what I would ever be able to accomplish in this game, and anyone that has been able to keep track of that moving target, hats off to you. But
so I'm guessing the Soul Reaper requirement is the 200-day requirement, and that it would require you to complete all the tasks in order to unlock the final cosmetic pet unlock. Okay. Yeah. I am not entirely sure about this because, when you think about it, you are a trimmed completionist player. And if you are a trimmed completionist player, that means you've already got completionist, you've already got Maxscape, and along that process somewhere, you've probably fought a bunch of these bosses. And there was a thing that said in the requirements for this task, and specifically all the points, is that if you've already been working on this, you will have your task retroactively counted. So I assume that's also true for the trimmed completionists here, so you'll have to correct that if it's wrong. But I'm honestly not in favor of amnesty for any of these, specifically 120 Slayer, because, you will have had a year requirement, and let's face it, if you're doing Slayer, you're going to be getting that XP along the way somewhere. So, though, I think that the 7-day amnesty period is a tame way of doing it. It's not the huge requirement that you might be facing for something else. So I can see that as, just giving you a few days to get around it. But at the same time, you have to ask yourself, what are the amnesty periods for the Quest Cape and the Master Quest Cape and the max cape when a new skill comes out, and the comp cape. So, with that being said, if you add one of these amnesty periods for one, being the completionist, you have to add it for the trim in an appropriate amount of time, the quest cape when something for that comes out in an appropriate amount of time, and the max cape when that comes out for an appropriate amount of time. So, for me, it's a question of where does this lead to afterwards? It's not just going to be for comp, because if you add it in for comp, it's going to have to be added in for other things along the way, right?
Yep.
I mean, I think that that's just the nature of the way the community would go for this, because if one group gets amnesty, the rest will want it for their own item that disappears. Yes? I think that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm don't want to make a lot of enemies here, but I don't like any of this amnesty stuff at all. I think if you don't have those requirements complete, then you shouldn't have that cape. Like, if you're not maxed, you shouldn't have a max cape. You should you should have a reason to work to get that max cape again.
And that's what I was saying. If you add it for the completionist, you might need to add it for the max cape. And how many of the last skills that have come out have you been able to get 99 in under a week?
Yeah, I just don't like the idea of this, because it seems like it's a false positive. You know, you get recognition because you got your quest cape back early, and so not many people are running around with the quest cape.
Who is going to do? Who finished Sliske's endgame on day one?
Yeah, and I think that's a piece of magic in the game that would be missing, like a piece of accomplishment that people can see.
And I mean, back in the olden days, I remember when the Legends quest came out, hearing about, the quest is out and we have these new people running around with the Legends cape and having access to this new bank and this new dungeon with these creatures in it that can drop what at the time was the half shield pieces, right? So, with that being said, that was a huge amount of prestige right there for completing Legends quest before anyone else. You got this white cape. That was the first cape that everyone went for back in the day, because it was an amount of prestige, 107 quest points back then. So whether it's, 2003 or 2017, I think you have to preserve some of that in the game, because if you look at a quest, how many people are going to complete a quest in 1 week? How many people are going to max out a skill in 1 week? And with 120 Slayer, you've known it's been coming, right? So I'm going to be with you, and I don't know if this is going to make any enemies out there. Quite frankly, I think at this point it doesn't matter, because you guys all listen to the show for an opinion that might be different than your own, or an opinion that has reasoning behind it, which I've explained. So for these reasons, I don't think there should be an amnesty period.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think, you can say it for comp or trimmed, but that leads to the quest cape holders wanting it, the maxers wanting it when a new skill comes out. So at that point, you start getting into these hypotheticals of how prestigious is it to have the first level 99 farming in the game, right? Or the first 99 construction. We know what happened there. Or the first who completed the Legends quest, or back in December, the people who completed Sliske's endgame on day one. So that's my cons about it and why I say no. But, I think if you look into Thieves presets, though, or Thieves pros about the presets, the completionist presets won't be affected. I think that might end up being addressed with the bank update and the way presets are going to work. Degrading gracefully into something else would be a good thing there. Perhaps this is something we should talk about the next time one of the banking developer blogs comes out, because I see preset and I automatically think bank, and what do we have coming later this year? A bank update. Mm-hmm. Completionist ample time to complete and enjoy the new content before the next update without having to rush through it. And, this is something I say to people all the time. You completed it content once, and you signed up for this when you wanted to chase this moving target. Well, you can either rush through it or you can complete it in a relaxing fashion. So and harder completionist requirements can be implemented. Yeah, they definitely should do that, and forget about the complationists. So, let's dump the complationists.
The complationists.
Yeah, it's a word thief coined there. So, anyways, anything else on that?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, that was our only discussion question for this week. If you guys want to send questions or discussion topics in, you can do so by emailing questions@rsbnb.com or calling into our Google Voice line, which is 571-572-2632, or better remembered as 571-57BNB. And we also take direct messages on Twitter @RSBNB. All right, so tech news. Some interesting Android news this week. This might be of interest to you and other Android users out there. Android Instant Apps is rolling out to various versions of Androids, and it was previewed at Google I/O last year. So, basically what this is a way of installing an Android app without requiring full installation and allowing you to run apps much quicker than you do right now. So basically what they're doing is they're working with a small number of developers to put this into their applications. So this includes apps from BuzzFeed, Wish, Periscope, and Viki. And basically what this means is that you'll basically click a button and your application will automatically appear, and it'll run, I'm guessing from a web stub perhaps, and then download the app as you progress through it, kind of like a bootstrapping kind of thing, if I had to guess.
Okay.
And any Android app developer is able to work with this if you follow the appropriate steps. Am I the only one concerned about security here with this?
Well, I think any new thing that's kind of like this warrants discussion for security. But the Android community is very large, and the amount of people that work on these projects are, I think it's in good hands. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah. Like the marketing pitch for this is that you get your app from anywhere. So whether it be a mobile web page or a search feed or social media or messaging application, you can basically have access to the app right away, and it'll work with most Android devices that use the Google Play Store. So, and only reason I say security is this kind of reminds me of the Windows image file format, the Windows meta file image format.
The ISO?
No, the image files that were able to run executable code on Windows.
Oh.
And the exploit that appeared with that a number of years ago. It's like, okay, we're designing this image format in 1993, and who is ever going to think that there's going to be images on the web that people are going to exploit, and these images will run executable code that will escalate permissions? So that's where my security concerns come from, is because with this, you could have an image on a website, and eventually it did result in a zero-day vulnerability where people were able to get root access to Windows machines. So I'm hoping that there will be enough security in place to prevent something like this from happening. No. Yeah. Kind of worrying, but I could definitely see this being a huge friction reducer for most applications, because imagine you're out somewhere, you just scan a QR code and whoop-de-doo, you're in the app right away. So,
yeah. Just put this into plain English for anyone who doesn't know what like root is and all that stuff. Root is basically telling your computer, I am the one that's able to call the shots regardless.
Yeah, basically running the processes in God mode, which allows it to do anything. So, and I mean, it's just so fluid. If you look at some of these examples on the page here, there's a Periscope link. So if someone doesn't have Periscope, they're sent to an instant app, and then it goes into an application that looks precisely like Periscope, and you got the full feature set to it. I mean, this is really a great way for getting people into your experience. So I wonder if iOS would ever do anything like this, or if it's too scary for Apple.
I don't know. I think if Apple tried it, it would take a lot more effort.
Oh yeah,
because
definitely.
of the way Apple is constructed. Because Android is constructed open, and Apple's not so much.
Yep. All right. Well, Android users can watch out for that at a later date as soon as developers start using it. If you don't already have Periscope installed, or BuzzFeed, if you use such a website. Oof, I don't like BuzzFeed. All right. Next piece of tech news relates to Facebook's news feed once again. We're back on this story here. Facebook has updated its news feed trending topics to better reflect real news and not necessarily news that was suggested by just stuff that was posted on Facebook. So here are the key points here about what Facebook has done and has rolled out in the U.S. and will be rolling out to other countries at a later date. So personal preferences are no longer taken into account. Previously, I guess this would mean if you liked certain items that your newsfeed would be customized based on that. And now everyone in the same region will see the same topics regardless. So that means if you're in the U.S., you'll see the same topics on that chunk of the page, or if you're in Canada or somewhere else. And they say for now, a region is the same as a country, which I know lots of people are going to raise questions about because, the Western U.S. is probably having different news than the Eastern U.S., right? So that's something that's going to need to come along eventually. And Facebook's big reason for doing this is to stop the spread of what they're calling fake news. Hoax articles will be less likely to trend as the news algorithms will look at the number of publishers and posting on Facebook about the story. And then a headline will also appear in the news feed as well as a blurb from one of the websites with a link to one of the publishing websites. So the example they give here, Brexit, what the UK Supreme Court ruling means for Brexit from ABC News. Winter Storm Leo. Storm brings snow into the Midwest after lashing California from weather.com. And United States Border Patrol. Border Patrol seizes $3 million from 2 cars heading to Mexico from Fox News. So that's their example of what this news feed is going to look like. And they say this is being done not only to combat fake news, but also what is being talked about on the real world of people's Facebook pages. So, less emphasis on the user here, more emphasis on, in general, what's happening. Thoughts?
I just want this fake news stuff to go away.
Yeah, I mean,
it's so oversaturated. That's all people talk about with the election and all that stuff that happened. I am just exhausted.
Right, and see, the thing is, if one side is talking about fake news, it's quite likely the other side is also pushing fake news as well. So, I mean, it goes both ways. Both sides push fake news, and that is something that is a huge problem in the news media today. Bias and sensationalism, that's just out there, and it's not being dealt with, and that's resulted in solutions like this that are, quite frankly, could be heavy-handed if it's not known what is actually going into these decisions. Because, like it or not, if this happens here, this could happen to other social networks and postings that you can and can't see. And lo and behold, we're left to ask the question, are social networks in effect turning into gatekeepers of what is and what isn't right for people to see, even if they might want to see those kind of things? So, I mean, I understand what they're doing here, and they definitely want to try and protect their big publishers that are involved on the website. But I thought the whole idea of social media was to bring the user into the equation. Now we're taking the user out. So, I don't know. I don't necessarily think this is a good thing. I think it's best that people are left to their own devices to realize what's real and what's not real, out there. It's not up to people to have the news hidden from them either way. So,
yeah, and I think we're seeing this more and more on the internet, and it's starting to become kind of like the way countries like gobble each other up, or not countries, companies. Companies just gobble each other up and become bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
We're seeing that on the internet, and it's starting to have negative consequences because
it's starting to feel like a telco monopoly, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Because like the competition feels like it's gone between all these companies, right?
Yeah, it feels like Google calls all the shots, Facebook calls all the shots,
and Twitter follows shortly thereafter.
I could argue about Twitter, but
right. And the funny thing about this is this happened only 2 or 3 days after Google banned a number of publishers from their ad network who were promoting fake ads and fake news. So, I mean, it certainly feels like they're operating in lockstep here, but I don't know. I just wish there was a more transparent way of people seeing what was happening with these companies here. And, you're entirely right. The competition's gone, and it's starting to feel like a telecom monopoly, right?
Yep.
All right. So those of you guys who use Facebook, keep that in mind next time you look at your news feed, that it is being curated for you based on what Facebook thinks is the right stories. And our final piece of tech news deals with 3D TV. Okay. Are you a fan of 3D TV? Have you ever used 3D TV?
Yeah, I have.
And how was your experience?
It was fine.
Okay.
I didn't go out and search for it.
Yeah.
Which leads to this article.
Right.
3D TV is dead.
Yeah, and, for me, I really find 3D cumbersome because I wear glasses, and it's just really a pain to have 3D glasses that you have to put on top to get a 3D effect that really doesn't look 3D and in some ways degrades the picture that you can be getting from the great TV that you have. So, it's safe to say that 3D TV in the home is disappearing. Both Sony and LG have confirmed that they are dropping 3D support. And there are no new TVs coming out this year that are 3D capable. None. Zero. Instead, the focus appears to be on HDR and 4K. Of course, HDR is high dynamic range, which means that you're going to get a broader color palette, darker blacks and richer colors with your new TVs. And 4K, of course, is the superior resolution, which only Blu-rays have begun to take advantage of. And I don't think we'll be seeing that in broadcast probably until, I don't know, I'd say 2020 or so, give or take. But yeah, 3D is done, and I'm not too fussed about that.
No, I'm not either. It's gimmick.
Yeah, it was, and I mean, this kind of signifies that that's the case.
And I would argue and say that 4K is somewhat of a gimmick at this point still.
Right.
Obviously, it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Better resolution. It's not going to hurt.
The only time,
but HDR
is what everyone's going to take advantage of, I think, because that's going to improve the picture. And I just want to say that 4K is something that most people don't even need unless you have, a 60-inch plus TV, because at the smaller sizes, you're not going to be able to tell the difference between a 1080p set, which is what we've all been running, or 4K, which is basically 4 times that amount. Or, sorry, 2 times that amount.
In order to actually see the effects of 4K, if you were to have as small as a 55-inch TV, you need to be sitting 8 feet away from your TV.
Oh, there you go. Are you on a certain website that I think you're on?
No, I just know that from my research.
Okay.
I got mine.
Yeah. There are websites that actually do this. There's a good TV website out there called rtings.com, basically ratings without the A in it. And you can go to this website and what you can do is you can basically say how far you can be away sitting away from the TV, and it'll tell you what size of TV that you made. So, with that being said, 4K isn't really something we need, but everywhere is going that way. And it's a lot easier to use 4K and HDR than it is for 3K. So, I'm sorry, 3D.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew this was a gimmick when it came out, and I'm glad that people aren't really investing in it too much. You think it'll disappear in movie theaters next?
No.
I find 3D in movies annoying as well in movie theaters.
Yeah. I don't think it will go away. I think it will decrease slightly because people will be like trying to push 3D Blu-rays, but I honestly don't know how many people go out and get 3D Blu-rays to begin with.
Right. And I would much rather have 4K with a TV that,
yes,
is very nice to see. Like, I would love to watch Star Trek on one of those TVs.
Like watching Game of Thrones on a 4K with HDR was really, really enjoyable.
Right. And the question is, like, where do you get these services or the content nowadays? And Netflix is one of them. And, just the fact that Netflix didn't really go down the 3D route either, and most of the TV content producers didn't, kind of show why we're in the situation where we are right now. So
yeah. And a lot of it's really hard to find 4K support just across the board right now. And I know that Netflix, if you want to get 4K, it's a premium price on top of the normal price you're already paying.
Yep. Alrighty, well, 3D TV is dead, and the Complaintionists are still complaining. So, we're going to move on to other things on this episode of RSBANDB Update right now, and that is, of course, the January Skill of the Month, which is, of course...
fishing.
That's a February Skill of the Month, but Slayer is our Skill of the Month in January, and Jamandy 52 is still blowing away the competition with 16.2 million XP gained. Second place, we have Pernasius with 5 million, and third place, Imperialis with 3.4. And yes, the February Skill of the Month is fishing. So if you're interested in a fishing skill of the month, just head on over to rsbnb.com/forums, create an account, then pop on over to the Skill of the Month website, which you can find the link to in the show notes at update.rsbnb.com, and sign up for this fishing skill of the month. Fishing is an easy one. I expect lots of people to sign up for this. Are you going to be in it? It's double XP weekend.
Definitely not.
Why not?
Double XP weekend? Where do you think I'll be? I have one skill that isn't... I guess two now. Dungeoneering.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope everyone will be happy out there with the fishing skill of the month. We haven't had a fishing skill of the month in a long time. The last fishing skill of the month was August 2015. So, and it's not a very common one. So,
okay.
Yeah. We do have some achievements of the week this week. I'll run through these right now, since I believe you have a pick of the week.
I do.
Okay. First up is Desmo360 with 99 Dungeoneering on the 24th of January. Congratulations, friend. Next up is Imperialis with 99 Invention on the 23rd. And finally, Barrage Tank got 99 Fishing on the 19th. So some nice 99s there. Barrage Tank, obviously, getting a jump on the fishing competition if he wanted to get involved with the fishing skill of the month. Would have a good starting point at just past 99. So there's another reason for people to sign up. I think that'd be good if everyone signed up for the fishing skill of the month.
Mm-hmm.
Okie dokes. What do you got for a pick of the week?
Well, not sure if this has been mentioned before, but I think it really pertains to recent events. With the title release to the new Star Wars movie just out, The Last Jedi, I have to bring up Wikipedia to anyone who doesn't know what Wikipedia is.
I can tell you that has not been a pick of the week.
Well, it is now. Wikipedia is the penultimate encyclopedia for all things Star Wars. And the thing I like about this the most is that for people who were into the expanded universe before Disney rewrote the entire rule book for the series, they have a good, easy to find separate section for every article that existed beforehand. And it's really helpful for things that pertain to both the old expanded universe and the new expanded universe. For instance, many people's theories on who Snoke is from The Force Awakens. He existed in the movies, so he is by Star Wars rules officially canon, because the movies always take precedence. But I would recommend anyone give this a try. You get to find out all sorts of cool Star Wars news, tidbits, follow the Twitter stuff. And for instance, like it says which actors are born, which books came out on this day. So a lot of cool Star Wars trivia. And it never gets old to look at.
They need a better skin. Memory Alpha has such a better skin, the Star Trek wiki.
I like this. It's minimalistic.
Yeah, and see, another thing with this is you guys, they're basically rewriting things, whereas the Star Trek reboot was an actual parallel universe. So it's not, it didn't hurt us as much as it hurt you guys, I guess. So
yeah, I'm still a little bit bitter about certain things that Disney chose, but I'm happy with the way the direction the series is going for the most part. It's just there are some areas where they didn't have to change things, but they did. And they changed them in a way that would make anyone who read the expanded universe, like, grind their teeth.
Yeah, I can appreciate that when something like that gets messed up.
Yeah. And anyone who hasn't watched Force Awakens, I don't want to spoil it, but there's a character named Ben who I got really mad at because the name Ben was supposed to be given to the opposite sibling from a different family, but still in the same family tree. Oh, it was.
Is this going to explain to me? Is this wiki going to explain to me why the little robot things don't speak English? And they can't be understood?
They can be understood.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. It just sounded like boop 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 boop. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it. Did I tell you about one of the only character that didn't annoy me in the first one was Harrison Ford's.
What do you mean by the first one?
The one from the 70s.
Okay.
Yeah. But
it was Harrison Ford.
That's right.
Okay. No Uncle Owen?
No.
Uncle Owen and Aunt Bert. Yeah, man. If only Shane liked Star Wars at least a little bit, you know.
I haven't been convinced thus far.
Since J.J. Abrams has had his hands in both movies, I feel like the communities have started to come together.
No, you guys can keep him. I don't want him. All right.
Wikipedia, everybody.
All right. And that's available at starwars.wikia.com. There you go. I said it.
Woo! One more time, please.
No, thank you. All right. Well, I did say this week I would be revealing the winner of the Dress Shane 12088 competition, and I do have that winner right now. That winner came from Clan Quest. It was submitted by Wolfie. I'm not going to be using the exact outfit that you chose, but I'm going to be using one of your outfits in principle. I'm going to change one or two things about it, but it's definitely going in the right direction. So there will be a link in the show notes to the winning outfit, and the winning outfit basically includes that's basically includes it's a mishmash of your two outfits, actually, what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to do the top from your first outfit and the legs from your second outfit. And the hat, a different hat that I already have. So it's a mishmash of all three of us. You got the right theme going. So Wolfie from Clan Quest is the winner for this competition. There was a piece of content out there that would have been an instant win if anyone had included that. I'm not sure if I should say what that instant winning piece of content is. Do you think I should say?
Do it. Don't leave us in suspense.
All right. The winning piece of content would have been some of the Prifdeenus robes, specifically the Elven Musician robes. If some of those had been included, that would have been an instant win. Wolfie got kind of close to this with the Elven legs and Elven top, in addition to the Cabbage Mancer stuff as well. So Wolfie was headed in the right direction with this, towards the winning piece of content that I had in mind when I thought of what I might imagine someone doing. So we're there. It's going to be a bit of a combination between all three of us. So thank you, everyone who submitted for this, but Wolfie is the winner. All right. So that's the Dress Chain 12088 competition done for 2017. That's good, because, I don't do Fashionscape. Do you?
No, I normally run around in my skins.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, in that case, what have you been doing in addition to that on RS?
Well, I finally did Slisuke's Endgame.
Oh. Let's not give any spoilers away, but what did you think?
I enjoyed the last portion. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. I wasn't so much of a fan of the biggest puzzle since Morning's End Part 2. So...
All right. What would you give it out of 5?
Story-wise, because the end had so much story in it. I would probably give it... I'd have to say 3.5. And that sounds really low because the majority of the time I spent in this quest was like story stuff that I didn't care about because I just needed to get through like the stupid puzzle. And when I finally got to enjoy the story, it was really worth it. And that was honestly the only part I really enjoyed about the quest.
Okay. Yeah, what we did for this is we actually rated it on 2 criteria. We rated it on the story, and lore, which we gave, 5 out of 5. We were really happy with that.
If I'm just giving it story, I would give it like a 4.5 or 5 out of 5 myself.
Right, and that's why we did it on 2 criteria, because the mechanics for us just killed so much of the quest.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, so that's a good, that's an interesting perspective to hear from someone who doesn't do quests that often and is more of a combat person. What else you been up to this week?
Not much else. Making use of my Ascension crossbows and having fun there.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Honestly, just starting to prep, get some of my wealth back so I can use that for when bossing comes around again. So,
which is next week for next.
Yep.
All right.
I've been restocking my rock tails and
you wanting your
my
advanced soup,
tab. Yeah.
Your advanced food. All right. Well, as for me this week, been herb farming along the way, some nature rune crafting for GP, and that's about it. I've been mainly stocking up my potions as well for, raw materials for double XP weekend coming in February. Do plan on doing a lot of potion making for that because, herb lore, 120 herb lore. Got to get that done. So, going to ramp up the herb runs. And what do you think of the idea of making overload potions or things based on overload if you're never going to use them to their full benefit?
What do you mean making?
Well, I mean, I can make overload potions. I can make all the combination overload potions I want, right? But
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily going to go do combat on RS to utilize these to their fullest potential.
Then you should be making the perfect jujus.
Okay.
Because there's no way Shane would not be using perfect jujus, right?
I actually don't, because I don't like the secondary effect for farming, because it doesn't let me have the primary effect of the main one. So I just use the main one. I mean...
Really?
Yeah. They've never really caught on with me. I mean, I guess we could go down the moss route, which was suggested to me, and that would be perfect jujus, and that would be 2k per potion right there, because you do the primary overload, then you get another 1,000 for it.
Yeah, but the moss takes so long.
Right, but you can get that moss with farming if you use the perfect juju, which is something I haven't been doing. Though I do have a fair amount of that from when Priv first came out and I was doing those pillars daily. So, anyways, that's something to think about. I don't know. What do you guys think? Should I be using perfect juju potions? I don't know. Like, if I'm only using one skill out of all the perfect jujus, like, should I just be doing perfect juju farming? And another question that we need to look at is, can I use a perfect juju and a regular juju at the same time? Because if I can't, I'd much rather just have the increased yield from the standard juju potion. Does anyone know the answer to that? I don't know. That'll be something to test, I think. Because, I mean, if it's one or the other, I know which one I want. So...
Yeah. See, I was under the impression that the perfect juju potion gave you the benefits of all of them.
No, it doesn't.
Including the increased yield.
Nope.
So, I take back my recommendation.
Yeah, and, a couple months after Prif came out, this was requested by players, and Osborne, I think, said they were looking into it, but I never heard anything else beyond that, so I'm not entirely sure.
It can't be that hard to do.
No, it's not. And I think if they did do it, it would be a question of creating something that was maybe a bit too overpowered. Right? Like, and I mean, I have enough juju potions as it is, and I get lots of herbs from it, which I'm perfectly happy about. So
yeah, I'd say Jagex saying we're looking into it is the show's equivalent of that's a topic for another day.
Which is something we haven't done yet this year. But all right, well then, that wraps up this episode of RSBANDB Update. We'll be back next week to discuss Nex and all the combat-related juicy mechanics to it. Thank you for sharing your time with us, everyone. See you then.
Bye.